Hey, welcome, welcome. I am excited to introduce my next guest speaker, and that is Wesley Henderson. And Wesley is an attorney and also the owner of a company called Drafted Legal. And Wesley is going to share everything you need to know to run a coaching business legally. Welcome, Wesley.
Natalie, thank you for having me.
You are good to go.
All right, cool. So I think we got 30 minutes here. Y'all let me know if I was having some volume issues before. So please let me know if I continue to have those. Anyway, we're going to go through some of the basics here, and then I'm going to talk about some things you should be mindful of as you're growing your business, because I know that this is a high earners field. And so we'll talk about things like selling your coaching business. But I also don't want to skip over some of the fundamentals because maybe you've gotten off to the races quickly, and we'll just go quickly through some of this as quickly as I can. I'm also going to put in the feed here a link. I have like a checklist. It's kind of a two-phase checklist that you can grab from that website. Has some similar things, more generic to businesses, but can just kind of print that off and make sure you're on the right track with any legal things you need. Feel free to put questions in. I'll stop at the end. I know we're on tight time frames, so I'll stop at the end if there's any questions. And then I'll also go ahead. I'm gonna put my email in here in case anyone wants to reach out and follow up with any questions. I'll be happy to do that. All right. So I'm gonna jump in this. This might go a little quick just because of the time, but I'll do my best. All right, here we're gonna learn some of the biggest mistakes my clients make. We're gonna figure out how you pick a business name. I know you've already done that, but there's still some wisdom you should hear. Make sure that your name is secure and good. How to protect your personal assets and the agreements you need for your business. Then again, some of these growth topics that we're going to go through. So who am I? I'm Wesley Henderson. I've run my own law firm along with my brother for 9 years now. We just hired our newest attorney last week. Our business has 5 total attorneys. We do all sorts of stuff. I personally do all business work, and that includes things like trying lawsuits and general counsel and trademarks and contracts. Basically, I serve business owners, and that's what I do for a living. A little bit about me. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. I've got 3 young boys, and this is us kind of carrying on the water, just, living our regular lives. One of the reasons we do all this good business work is for this sort of time. And so that's a little bit about me. All right. So, first question is, why do we even need this legal stuff? Well, I talk to clients all the time and they'll say, I haven't need a lawyer in 15 years of doing business. I said, that's great. You must have good clients. What the good clients and some good fortune and have not run into the popular meme from several years ago. The Karens of the world seems to encapsulate this concept pretty well, and people kind of understand what I'm talking about. But the Karens are the ones who ask for the store manager. They're just impossible to please. No offense to anyone actually named Karen, but the meme works so well. They come in many different ages, genders, everything, obviously. They're just people that are difficult and they almost like the drama of problem making. And so this is largely what you're doing some of this legal work for. It's obviously accidental mistakes and things like that, but really it's largely for people who you just can't seem to do anything to make them happy. So this is kind of who you're envisioning, sadly enough, when you're doing this legal stuff is if that person comes into your life and they're just driving you nuts, you want to have the right legal stuff in place so that you have some good alternatives and recourse and can smooth the situation out. What kind of problems do you run into in these businesses? So you run into liability problems. Someone says, well, you're the reason I lost profits. You're the reason I got injured. You're the reason I slipped and fell. Whether it's physical or business related, liability issues are always a concern with any business. Just general disputes, obviously, those can turn into lawsuits, but hey, I didn't get what I said, or you're using my content, or you're infringing on my trademark, or personnel disputes, or anything in between. We see it all. Getting paid in coaching businesses, that's obviously a big part of it. Most of you here probably have that figured out already, but it is important. You can use agreements to make sure. This is usually a pain point early on, but if you're growing and you have coaches underneath you. This is still a really big focus. I know in our law firm and with our clients, it is kind of always the focus, making sure that that is handled properly. How to handle things like canceled sessions. If you're running a coaching business, you want to be really clear about what your policy is if someone doesn't show up and they didn't tell you until 2 hours in advance. When you use agreements and you use good onboarding systems, it's very clear to the client when you say, if you cancel within 24 hours, we're going to have to charge you for that time. And then when you're onboarding them, you can discuss it with them. You say, well, I will have already prepared and I will have blocked that off. So I couldn't have done anything else, served anyone else, or, that time was already sort of taken. And that is fair, and people understand that. This is what the agreements do when you do them correctly is they set these rules and people can accept them, the Karens, and say, okay, and you have something to point to. And they are fair. Misunderstandings on deliverables. I thought you were going to do this. I thought you were going to do that. This is another place where agreements come into play where you can clarify these things, like the cancellations just mentioned. Other problems you'll see, these are breaches of contracts. That's many lawsuits between businesses or their clients are, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. Particularly for this audience, coach employees. Let's say you're growing your coaching business and you're starting to get people to help you. How do you prevent someone from leaving, getting, well, one, your employees poached, also your client? An employee could poach a client, or someone else could poach an employee, or several people could leave and break off. There are ways using what's called non solicitation with your clients and employees so that if someone leaves, you can protect those relationships so that, you can use the non compete, but if you don't, you can still let them go on their way, but they can't take any part of your business, any of your relationship. It's really, really important for growing kind of an agency style model. And then with coaching, people angry. They say, you promised me the moon and I'm, still not seeing the results I want. So we can have most of these things off. I'll tell a quick story. I've picked on the Karens. Now I'm going to pick on the rich, angry men. I've got a lawsuit right now and it is all over a written agreement that a client of mine before she hired me got from another business, basically. Her friend gave her this agreement, and it's not good. It's like 2 pages. Not that I'm advocating that you have a 25-page agreement, but your agreement needs to be clear and you need to give it the attention it deserves. Anyway, this agreement was what we call ambiguous, and it was just ambiguous enough, so not clear, that this client of hers, when they broke up, it was not good, and he said, Imma spend any amount of money to ruin your life, and he has fulfilled that promise. She had a 14-hour deposition, meaning under oath, for 14 hours, took over 2 days. She probably spent over $50,000 in legal fees defending this, all because the agreement wasn't as good as it needed to be, and when I say that, it's because your agreement is clear and your actions are consistent with it, you can dispose of lawsuits early on. They can still file them, but there are things you can file, a motion to dismiss or summary judgment to get rid of them, which is what should have happened here. But the agreement is just unclear enough that the judges are saying, we got to let a jury make the call on this. I can't. That's the gist of it. So, a lot of this legal stuff is just lawsuits are no fun. You're hearing it. They're expensive. They take a lot of time. They're negative, and I'll spare you the rest of it. I think you get the point, and we'll jump into some of the positive benefits. The legal isn't just fearful. It's not just, oh, what if I get sued? It's not just the rich, angry men and the Karens of the world. There are some positive benefits in the agreements that you're working on with your clients and with your employees. And it's the systems and processes you have to create. So if you're working with someone who knows your industry, they know, a lawyer knows how to see around the corners. Also, just skilled people in the industry. When I get hired to work in a field that I haven't worked in before, I have to figure out how to understand the industry. Someone who is, a business coach is very different than someone who is a health coach. There are different concerns, in one, someone can blow their back out, and another one, someone can lose $1 million. It also helps with clarity. clarity is good for everybody. It creates good relationships. And of course, that improves your business and your referrals. So here's some common mistakes we see: gaps in liability protections. There's a couple different ways you want to protect your business. The first, I always say, is conduct. So how we're treating our clients, employees, that sort of thing, that sets the tone. The second is the contract that you have. So you say, well, no, this is how it should go. Like, we've already set these rules. The third is insurance. And the contract and insurance cover different assaults, basically, different things coming at you. And then the final one is that LLC, which if you don't have, go to our website. You can get one online, thedraftedlegal.com. Get an LLC. I'm sure you have it already, but definitely get one. This is your backstop for everything that protects your personal asset. Core agreements, for the same reason that I mentioned that rich angry man lawsuit. This is, there's no reason to not set the stage. You just need a cup of tea or coffee, depending on how much coffee you need, and go ahead and knock out a good agreement, one drafted by a lawyer that knows that industry. You can use templates like we offer, but you can get a lawyer as well. Just make sure you are addressing these things and make sure it matches your business. Employment matters. This is for this audience in particular. As you start to grow, you need to understand employment laws. I would, if you're in the seven figures, absolutely have a relationship with a lawyer in your city, in your town, and asking to make sure that when you are hiring an employee, that you're classifying them correctly. They're classified as exempt or non-exempt. So these are salaried. I mean, it goes a lot deeper than this, but it's the salaried versus hourly kind of distinction. It's actually exempt and non-exempt. But you gotta be getting that right, because one, you have to pay overtime, and one, you don't pay overtime to, and there's different rules for them. So that is one important thing. When you terminate someone, sometimes people don't work out. You're doing them a favor, you're doing yourself a favor. Give them a chance, coach them up, help them. But if they're not working out, you might need to terminate them. Make sure you do that in a way that maximizes your chance of them not suing you. So make sure you're handling employment matters. As you get bigger and bigger, you want things like handbooks and that. And then mishandling disputes. This is just like a business savviness sort of thing. Is when someone's upset, how do we respond? Well, you can go prove your point. They say, you're so bad, you didn't do this, this, and this. Shoot you an email, and you can fire one back, taking it to them, telling them why they didn't do what they were supposed to, or what have you. Or you can, what we recommend is called the 24-hour rule. You've probably heard something similar. Don't send the angry email. You can type it up, throw it away, or whatever you want to do with it, but don't send it. Take a deep breath, come back the next day, try to figure out, spend at least a few minutes in that person's head and say, all right, how can I get a win for him? How can I dispose of this with minimal influence on the business? Now, this is not advocating being weak or not firm, but if you can dispose of something with a little bit of savviness, do that. Try to not escalate a matter, because once it escalates, there's kind of no coming back to it. Another part of this mishandling disputes is it is shockingly common for someone to get a lawsuit and them to not respond. This will lead to what's called a default judgment, meaning you don't even get to tell your side of the story. So if you ever get served where you have to sign something acknowledging you got that paper, open it immediately, figure out what it is immediately, and get a lawyer on it immediately. And federal court, you got 21 days. State courts usually is 30, but either way, take those seriously and just don't overlook it. This is a quick process. You'll see this in our handout as well, that we have people go on to set their business up the right way. So let's just check and make sure you've done that. Choose a business name. We're going to jump into these a little bit longer here, but choose a business name that no one else already has. Get an LLC. Make sure you have your licenses. We're talking business license if you have a specialty license, and then contract. So we're going to zip through these and see if we can save a little bit of time for you up there. All right, the business name. Why does this matter? Well, especially with the internet today, we can get confused for another business. So you need to go on uspto.gov and make sure no one else in your industry has a name that is similar or the same, obviously, but that a consumer would be confused by. So here's the problem of it is You finally become popular after all these years, and someone across the country, lo and behold, is not on the internet, and they get wind of you becoming popular as your Instagram blows up and you've never seen them or heard about them, but they own a trademark of your name. Well, they can send you what's called a cease and desist and make you shut your business name down. And then you have to rebrand. It is not the end of the world, but it is not ideal. You got to figure out some pitch to tell all your clients, and then you lose a lot of your branding that you've already done. So you want to make sure you're building a brand and value in a brand that you can control. So make sure no one else has that name. And then once you start building your own value in your brand, go get a trademark. That way, if someone else pops up, it's only one letter usually to say, hey, look, you must have overlooked my name, but here it is and it's registered. Here's a serial number. You're going to have to put yours down. We'll give you, you know, so, several weeks to do it, but it has to happen. Okay. Next up is an LLC. This is how you protect your personal assets. It's such a good deal. LLCs aren't terribly expensive to start. You don't have to have board of directors like a corporation. Protect your personal assets. You want to get as many debts in your business. Now, sometimes you might have to guarantee some with the bank, but you want to get your debts on your business. Everything that is the LLC is doing needs to be in the name of the LLC. So, for example, when I am doing something on behalf of Drafted Legal, I sign Wesley Henderson, comma member, and I am operating on behalf of Drafted Legal, not me personally. So that's how you want to be doing everything. If you have an LLC, you need an operating agreement. Even if you're the 100% owner, write it in there 100%, sign it, date it, shows the formalities that you need. If you have another owner with you, I recommend you going to a lawyer and talking that out. We have kind of a workbook on Drafted Legal as a shortcut, but still, I want you to get to a lawyer before too long, before disputes arise, because you can head off a lot of things. What happens if someone gets sick or they move or they take another job or they can't put into the business what they used to? Do you take that 50% back or 40% back, or what happened? And you can sketch that out and make that easy. So if someone can no longer you know, do what they had signed up to do. There's not a big dispute about whether they're making the same amount of money or not as the person who is still there. Real quickly, the different types of entities are a sole proprietor. This is just like my kids selling lemonade. There's no business to it. You just start doing business and it's all just me. Don't do this. This is a very bad idea. An S corp, you've heard of this? You can do this is a tax status. This is not an entity status. There is a sole proprietor, an LLC, and a corporation. There's also partnerships, but for your purposes, that's probably what you're going to be looking at. Then the tax statuses are partnership, S corp, and C corp. So those, if you're filing as an LLC or multi-member, those are your options. So that is a tax status. It's in a different classification as what the entity is. Short answer to this is you can be an LLC and file as an S. And then the corporation is kind of the big thing where you can exchange shares, and there's really no reason you need to be a corporation unless some lawyers talked you into it and given you a really good reason why you need to, because they're much more cumbersome, much more expensive, more formalities. I would avoid it at all costs if you could. Not the end of the world though if you're in. So here's just a little visual. This LLC protects your personal assets. Your business is out there running, doing everything it can to m- make money and market, and you're out in the world and things happen. The rich, angry men and the, Karens, and it shields your personal assets. So whatever we have in that business is what's at risk. So if you're a coaching business, it's really not that much. It's your bank account. Other businesses that own tractors and big assets continually have those. But for a coaching business, you've kind of got your intellectual property in your bank account. So it's a good place, particularly for coaching business. It was just a visualization. The difference between having your personal name on a lawsuit and your LLC is just massive. So get that LLC. Don't do it personally. Next up are these licenses. So even if you're operating out of your home, you're going to need a business license. They're usually called home occupation business licenses. Type in business license department and then your city, and that will take you where you need to go and you can figure it out. Every city or county has a business license department. Contracts, we've kind of gone through these. You're looking to address clarity, payment. What are you getting in return? And what are the rules? I know we're coming up on time, so I'm going to go very quickly through these. What are the services you're providing? At what price? When is payment due? Highly recommend you get something up front, always. And then a monthly bill. And then if someone doesn't pay, you got to have late fees on it or else they have no urgency. Disclaimers is really important. This is what am I doing for you, but what am I not doing for you? So, as a lawyer here today, I'm giving you general information. I don't know anything about your business particularly. I hope this information is extremely helpful, but it's not customized to you. Boom. Was that an annoying disclaimer? No, but it puts the limitations on what I cannot do. If you're coaching in health, you say, I'm not a physician. I can't give you medical advice. I'm here to push your body and, you're responsible for your health. Attorney's fees, you have to have an attorney's fees clause because that means you can go hire a lawyer to recover someone owes you a couple $1,000s. Otherwise, you're going to pay a lawyer more than you would get in return. So make sure you have that. Cancellations, sessions, termination. You might have a 6-month agreement. Make sure you sketch that out in your agreement. What happened? Here are, you know, getting paid on time, these liability and waivers, canceling, termination, an IP policy. I touched on this earlier, and I've got this on the next slide. Disclaimers that actually protect you. And then your choice of law is really important. So I want to stop and mention that. I'm in South Carolina, so my agreements say South Carolina. Wherever you are, you need your agreements to say the choice of law is in your state because you might work with someone, 1,000 miles away. You need to make sure that if you sue them, you can sue them in your state, or if they're going to sue you, they have to sue you in your state. You don't want to have to go to Wyoming and hire a lawyer, or California or Idaho or any other state other than your own. You don't want to hire a lawyer at all, but particularly in another state. So here's the growth topics. This intellectual property, make sure you own your trademark, and then also make sure that your agreements are protecting the information you create. You don't want to have someone that's a client who then repackages all your content and tries to do the same thing. Wage laws, I really want to make sure you just have this on your radar. You can ask a lawyer for it or Google around. Just don't ignore this topic. Agreements. You need to have good agreements with your employees, with your independent. You need to be protecting your intellectual property. You need to have attorney's fees in there. You need to put all the rules in non-solicitation. Please have a non-solicitation in each of these so no one can steal your clients that you are working so hard to build. It's your call on the non-compete, but you don't want them to be able to solicit when they leave. That is very enforceable. So make sure you have that in there. If you are selling your business, you want to be packaging all this in a way that you can sell it. This is what all these things we're teaching you about. Make sure the trademark is owned by the LLC. Make sure you have the LLC. Make sure all the agreements have the LLC's name on it and a clause about assigning. You can assign that relationship. So now you have a packaged, beautiful business that's making 7 figures and you can sell it. And it's all in a nice, clean package. Insurance, go get several quotes on liability insurance, errors and omissions potentially. And then, if you're, in the 7 figures, people are going to have a target on you. You can consider something like an umbrella. I don't want to spend money on insurance, but we have those to make sure that we're protected and build them in their budget. And then you're dealing with lawsuits. This is what the agreements, those 4 things we talked about earlier, help head off. All right. So didn't leave a whole lot of time here, but I don't know if this will be replayed or not. This is my law firm. We're happy to help you as a law firm, or we do sell templates. And here's a quick code. If anybody wants them, there's courses that are broken up into little modules. We have LLCs, but we also have templates for coaches, things like partnership agreements and operating agreements. And then also specifically legal templates for coaches that you could use if you're an agency. So those include employment agreements and independent contractor agreements and website policies and privacy policies. So it's the whole bundle of that. I think that's all that we got. I nailed it on the time, except for I didn't leave any time for Q&A. So my email is in there. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to see if I can help on email, or if a call was warranted, I'd be happy to jump on a quick call for you.
Wesley, thank you so much. It was, oops, my microphone. Thank you so much. Definitely lots of value there, packed in just 30 minutes. Thanks a lot. I really hope we're going to get an opportunity to chat soon. The recording is going to be available if it's possible for you to share the slides. I would love to share it with everyone who registered. And thanks a lot again.
All right. Very good. Take care. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. I
Everyone
hope that
have a
was helpful.
that was very helpful. I'll see you in the next session, everyone.